Welcome to the Mike Hewitt Show. My name is Mike Hewitt, and in the studio today with me is Jim Riley.
Good morning, afternoon.
And Oscar.
And Oscar the man.
Oscar, is your mic turned on?
My mic is turned on.
Hey, before we
Because I can do that.
Yeah, that's... Oscar,
I can turn you off and turn me on if I want to.
it's like I think I'm in control, but I'm really not.
The master controller.
This is really
Oscar.
Oscar's show, no matter what I want to think about it. Listen, Oscar, before we jump into the show, do us a favor. Give us an update on what's going on with your wife, Terry, and I understand she's got an event going on this afternoon. But the biggest thing is both the event, yes, but tell us how's her health doing? How's she doing?
Her health is doing okay. She's tired all the time, but she's in better spirits now. She is now on the list, officially on the list. She doesn't have a donor at the moment, but she's on the list. So
To get
a kidney. Yeah,
get a kidney
Thank you
because
very
she
much.
has kidney disease.
Yes,
Okay.
stage 5. So
That's awful.
So anyway, she's still above 10% or at 10%, so she doesn't have to go on dialysis just yet. But she's hopeful that she gets a kidney before that happens, because once you're on dialysis, it's a little bit less of a chance to get a transplant.
What's the average time to on that? How long is a person on that list typically?
Well, we talked to them the first time; they were telling us a year. Now they're telling us maybe 2 to 5. So
2 to 5 years.
yeah. So
What happened to the year?
I don't know.
Was that Obama?
It went away somewhere.
Not to get political on you, because everyone knows that's not this kind of show.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Was that Obamacare that fixed that for her?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think.
Well, that's
we
an
do it that
interesting
way.
question, and we, of course, don't know the answer, but the entire medical world, if you speak with anyone, you speak to doctors
Flipped
or
upside
administrators, it changed so many rules. You don't know how it affected things. We certainly know that Obamacare has affected things negatively for an awful lot of people in terms of what they have to pay every year, but that hasn't been an issue for you.
Just
Well, I don't
surprises
know.
me.
All I know is that we went to St. Mary's Hospital 5 months ago, and they were saying a year.
Just hard to imagine it going from
1 year to 5. Yeah,
2 to 3 to 500% longer.
yeah.
And the only thing I can see that's really changed is your Marxist care. It's the only thing I see that.
Well, there is
different.
one thing that would help and would certainly, if we knew and publicized this more, the fact is that people can get on board to donate a kidney,
Right.
because most of us have 2 kidneys.
And I was hoping you guys were going to do that, but you're above the age now, so darn it.
Thankfully.
He's not, but he's.
Am I?
Yeah, you're still available.
What's-
yeah.
And you've got zippers.
I think it's like-
you've got zippers to get in there.
Yeah, you got
too. So
zippers to get
you've
in there
already-
to just grab the kidney,
already
take it
been
out, and
opened up.
run.
Wow,
yeah.
what a deal. What is the age cutoff?
I think the age is cutoff is like 60 to 65, something like
so
that.
65, you're not even in that. You're older than
Oh, that's
me.
right. You're not. Hey, there you go.
No, I am 65. That's why I'm getting my free medical care, my physical therapy. Thank you, young people. for
Okay.
picking
See,
up
I
the
only
tab.
have one kidney. I've had one kidney since I was 8 weeks old. So,
But if you folks
much
look
I
this,
can't- I
look this
can't
up
do
on
anything.
YouTube, and you're going to see that Jim Riley looks like he's 85.
well, I'm not going to say that.
This is a very rough business.
Jim is a good
But
guy.
you can sign up to donate a kidney.
Right.
And one of the negatives that you had explained to me that is not the case is that, suppose you donate a kidney to someone and then you do have a kidney problem yourself. Well, the answer to that is that you get at the top of the list.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So, I mean,
was I in a test there? Or
I was
something?
bringing you into the conversation.
Okay.
I figured
There's
you had all that
there's
sugar.
also a thing with the Mayo Clinic now. I heard that the Mayo Clinic you can donate a kidney, and if your kidney doesn't match Terry's and it matches somebody else, whoever they try to find the match for Terry and find the match for, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't have to be the exact match
Exactly,
anymore. Yeah.
exactly. So if they give a kidney, whoever that one goes for, the first kidney that's available for her would go to her then.
That's not the topic for this show, but I sure would like at some point to have at least a brief discussion of the idiocy of not being able to get compensated if, in fact, you do donate a donatable organ.
60%. They'll take care of 60%. The insurance company will take care of 60% of their wages for that 2 or 3 weeks are off.
Okay, well that's nice, but of course that's nothing. But
Right.
in the real
And that's
world,
not talking
if you
gas
could-
to get over there and the full year. The full
if
year.
you could sell a kidney
Excuse me.
for
The full year you have
for
to go through.
$20,000, let's say, people would be lining up and there would be plenty of kidneys. We wouldn't have this problem, but a different story.
We've been trying to win the Publishers Clearinghouse so we can buy a kidney on the market, but it hasn't come through just yet.
But
so.
wouldn't it end up with your wife speaking a different language? Speaking Chinese, or
I think it was a kidney, not a brain.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I didn't know. The organ's an organ.
I'm not sure where you're going with that one. So,
but if you are interested in donating,
yes,
a kidney, where would you go? Where online?
Well, the National Kidney Foundation, of course,
National
is always
Kidney
a place you
Foundation.
could always
Okay.
go. But if you want to go locally, of course, you would go to somewhere in Grand Rapids. We're doing St. Mary's.
Well, wouldn't you first want to stop off at maybe Dick's Sporting Goods or someplace and buy a cooler? And then you want to keep it nice and iced up.
He's going a whole different direction.
He's been
with
watching
this,
way too many late night TV shows.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm missing the point here.
So hey, she's got something going on today, doesn't she?
She does. We have the kidney transplant dinner and oldies dance benefit. We're just going to call it dinner and oldies dance benefit because kidney transplant kind of doesn't make the whole event sound exciting, but it's going to be exciting. It's a dinner and it's oldies dance. My good friend Paul from DJs on the Run, you know him as PT.
Absolutely.
And he's going to be playing the oldies over there, and it's going to be over at the White Lake Eagles. That's at 1204 South Lake Street in Whitehall.
What time?
It starts right after the show, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
So you're going to look like you were shot out of a cannon at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm going to get out of here real quick and go grab some spaghetti. Spaghetti's $5 for the dinner. It's children 5 and under are only $3, but there's all kinds of raffle items too, and 50-50. And do you care if I go through a few of them?
No.
Okay, I was hoping you'd say that. Tanning salon. There you go, Jim. You can go for the tanning salon. Hair care gifts
gone.
too. Hair care gifts too. There you go. Right up your alley.
Plugs.
Here's something for John Van Wyck. You got Harley Davidson shirts and Harley items made into a basket of goodies from Hot Rod Harleys. We've been talking about something else too much, but anyway. Jack Daniel's gift basket. You got Jagerbomb gift basket. You got Captain Morgan gift basket. There you go. So all the alcohol you ever need. Handmade jewelry. They got jewelry from the Hokey Pokey, and special thanks, of course, to Diane Gretchen and Carol over there. They've done all kinds of great things for charity, so we appreciate that. Holiday and gift certificates. They got Mr. Scribb gift certificates, TJ Maxx gift certificate, $200 advertising from Muskegon Television. You can get into that. That way your show will be free.
Ooh.
I'm in.
Ooh. You got 4-hour DJ service provided by me. Advertising spot provided by me.
There.
That's
Yes.
huge.
You bet.
Sporting goods. We got Bud Light Grill. We got a 3-pack of Buffalo Wild Wing products. You got cooler shaped like a canoe, which is kind of cool. Michigan Adventure tickets. Wine tasting for 6 at Lemon Creek Winery. There you go. Right up your alley there again, Jim. You don't drink wine, though, do you?
My body is a temple.
I know. Coors Light shirts. They've got 25-hour Texas Roadhouse
Wow.
gift certificates. We got more. 31 baskets. Those 31 items are the, I guess, women's purses or something.
There you go, Jim.
Yeah.
That's up your alley, too.
Honey Bunch loves purses.
Oh boy, Sunday basket, all full of stuff for ice cream. You got a variety, but you got all kinds of variety baskets. You got wine, you got pampering items, you got homemade knitted hats, you got a bake sale, you got garlic bread provided by Cole's Bakery.
Ooh.
Yeah,
If you're going to have garlic bread, it might as well be locally grown.
And see that, yeah. And the thing about it is, we've got enough for 200 people. So if we don't get 200 people over there, you and I are going to be eating a lot of garlic bread.
No more donuts for breakfast. It's
Yeah,
garlic bread
I'll
for
be bringing
breakfast.
garlic bread instead of you bringing donuts. So there you go.
Perfect.
So the hall, just like to say thanks to the hall at the White Lake Eagles. They supplied the hall for tonight, and the ladies auxiliary over there.
When you
Paid
say
for the
tonight,
food. Today.
Just to
I'm
clear,
sorry,
it's
today.
It's 1 o'clock.
It's 1 o'clock today till whenever the food runs out. So we're hoping it goes at least till 6.
And just to make sure, it's at 1 o'clock today. Where at?
The White Lake Eagles, and it's in Whitehall at, let me see the address again. It is at 1204 South Lake Street in Whitehall. You can't miss right on White Lake there.
And if you've never been there, really, it has arguably the best view of
It
any
is.
restaurant
It's beautiful.
in West Michigan.
It's beautiful.
Just look straight down White Lake. It is really worth the visit, if only to get some garlic bread and look out the window.
Yeah. Yeah, there's other stuff here, too. I forgot about this stuff. We got some other items that they did. The General Store, Johnson's Bait Shop, Miller's Oil. MUS, of course, donated some stuff, too. We got Family Video, Wayside Bar and Grill, and DJ Movie Package. So there you go. That's
Very
all.
nice.
That's all
That
going
is
to be
good
over
stuff.
there.
Yeah, very, very good stuff.
So that's happening. This is our last one. So hopefully it'll be very successful. Everybody can come out and have some spaghetti and have a good time dancing to the oldies and bid on a bunch of good stuff over there.
And just so people
And all
know,
for a really good cause.
Yeah.
very good. It's a blessing that she's on the list, but that's just the beginning of this.
Oh
fight.
yeah, that's the whole thing. What
Yep.
the money does is it goes away for when this happens, when they call her and say, okay, it's time to go. You know, we got a kidney for you. That's when the expense comes in.
And
So,
you just don't know when that's going to be.
exactly. She's got to have a bag packed and ready to go. So
Wow, that's got to be really a tough way. How does a person go from day to day wondering?
that's the whole thing.
The
she
mental
went from
stress has got to be terrible.
yeah, she went from upset because she wasn't on the list to now she's on the list. Now she's scared.
Yeah.
So,
You're on pins and needles 24/7.
Yeah.
Man, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
I really don't. My heart's with her.
so I appreciate you letting me talk about it. And like I say, come on out today. It's at White Lake Eagles.
Very nice.
We'll be there.
Of course, pre-show, Oscar was holding a gun to our heads.
Pretty much,
As far
yeah.
as being
Worse
able to
than-
get on the air.
Worse than that, he had his finger on the on-off button.
Yeah,
There we
and-
go.
Do you want to do the show today?
And
or
I
not?
was hoping that Jim Riley would come up with some corny jokes too. So anyway, yeah, I just
There we
make it
go.
that
We
much
corned
better.
it up.
Thank you. I'll shut myself off now.
He never lets us down with the corny jokes, does he?
That's true. That's true.
On that note, we're talking about censorship today. Political correctness, you and I touched on a few shows ago. And to me, political correctness is also censorship. I asked on Facebook whether censorship would be me just turning your mic off, and nobody defended you. So what do you think, Jim? What is your interpretation of the word censorship? Who do you normally think of?
Well, I think that generally speaking, we believe that in this country, the federal government, because of the First Amendment, the right to freedom of speech, the federal government cannot shut down people who speak. Now, that's gotten into any number of different interpretations. Can large corporations buy advertising and things of that sort? But the facts are that when I think of censorship, I usually will think of what a government will not allow me or allow me to say. And generally in this country, you're allowed to say just about anything short of the old, like you can't yell fire in a theater. But we're seeing a new form of censorship. I'd say maybe the broad category of it would be political correctness, where you're not allowed to say any number of things publicly, or as we've seen, various pressure groups will come out and try to get you fired. They will try to shut down your business. They will protest. They will try to get their friends in the government to pass laws to keep you from saying what you've said in the future.
It's a fascinating thing because if you look to the right political spectrum and the left, they define public censorship very differently. So the left is saying, the right is Christian driven and trying to silence their methods of expression, nudity, etc. While the right is a growing chant that literally our political opinion is being squelched. So what caused me to think this is recently I'd written what I think was a fairly well thought out piece, and I'm not going to get into party politics today, although this was written and placed in a party Facebook setting, and it was immediately removed, and I was banned.
No, so this is on a Facebook post.
Yeah,
kind of a
that's
thing?
kind of what got me on this path. And the more to me at the time, I was aghast. I write. I'm a novelist. I do this show. The First Amendment to me is everything. I think it's the backbone of liberty in America. And so the idea, and I've always thought of it, by the way, as you did. I thought censorship, we have a First Amendment which protects us from the government controlling our thoughts and our expressions, although the government, I think, is pretty engaged in doing just that.
Yeah, that's changing.
It's changing a lot. But also people with opposing views are looking to shut their opponents down rather than winning in the arena of ideas, to be cliche. And when my post was deleted, I started looking at it a little deeper because I equated that, and I'm not trying to be shrill here, but for me it was the equivalent of having them stack up books in the parking lot and burn them. To silence opposing or opposition or differing views is so contrary to what I believe is the foundation of America that I was genuine. And listen, I'm always joking about how America's become land of the offended. Have I got
Perpetual offended.
and I got to chastise myself a little bit because, frankly, that offended my senses of what America is about. To have them, because it wasn't vulgar, it It wasn't a rant. It wasn't any of those things. It was just a rationed opinion of a political process, and it was removed. And again, to me, it was like burning books in a parking lot. Am I off base with that, Jim?
Well, yes. No, you're not off base in that, and political correctness is one issue. One thing, though, we must remember, if you go back and look at any kind of recent history, let's say the 20th century in terms of newspapers and all, newspapers almost always, in whatever media there happen to be, television, newspapers, radio, happen to they take political sides. So if you are let's just say you are a Republican newspaper in the 20th century, the early part of the 20th century, you are going to spin the news in the manner that you believe it should be spun, and certainly someone on the Democrat side or what the other sides would do the same. What's happened here, though, is we're getting all this, frankly, it's garbage from the media and newspapers who flat out tell us they are unbiased. Well, it's a ludicrous concept. Well, everyone has a bias. Certainly anyone in the media does.
It's just a bold-faced lie is what it is. But listen, we're going to slide to a break, folks. We'll be right back, and we'll pick up on that where Jim left off.
You're listening to News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Renegade River in Spring Lake wants to buy your used handguns and hunting guns. Renegade River, your hunting, camping, and survival store. Stop in and check out their new and used firearms, sporting goods, Army and Navy supplies, and survival gear. Downtown Spring Lake, next to the police station.
There will be a spaghetti dinner benefit.
The Talk of Muskegon. News Talk 1090, WKBZ.
Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show with Jim Riley and myself talking about censorship.
And Oscar trying to censor us, or at least giving it consideration.
He turned Jim, you're off. He turned your mic off. You have been censored. You're out.
Ooh. Well, that's what happens, baby.
It just went.
You say things that are hurtful.
It just went dead for a second.
Ooh, I love it.
And everyone in West Michigan smiled.
There was got to bring happiness to some folks. Well, remember when it wasn't that long ago that you had folks. This is in the olden times, I suppose, but where you had folks who could say what, of course, is considered horribly outrageous today, but people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama would say that they believed, I mean, think about this. They said that they believed that marriage should be between a man and a woman. And those days are certainly long, 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 long gone. If you were to say that today, certainly the management of Chick-fil-A, who says that because their religion, which of course most of the Christian religions believe that marriage should be between a man and a woman, whether you agree with that or not, that's the religion. And if you were to say that today and you owned a chicken store, people would march outside and try to get people to keep from purchasing your products. We know that even in some schools, Chick-fil-A has been kept off campus and things of that sort. So we have now moved from, and of course, I'm joking because it hasn't been very long. It's only been just a few years where it was reasonable to disagree. You could say, I believe marriage should be between a man and woman. Others say, wait, I think that marriage between homosexuals should be legal because of any number of other reasons. Now you're not even allowed to argue the other side. That's where the censorship comes in.
What's fascinating, it was more than, it was way less actually than a few years. It was within a calendar year. It went from Obama was in favor of traditional marriage to the flip side of it was where Michigan's Republican National Committee man, Dave Agema, was being asked by the Republican Party to step down because he continued to publicly express his belief that it should be between a man and a woman. Irony being that it was believed by so many, it overwhelmingly passed a ballot initiative to change the Michigan Constitution. And
that's in the state of Michigan. There was a ballot initiative. Citizens voted.
It was like 58 or 59%. Listen, I got to tell you, I don't even agree with that position. By the way, I never have. I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian, but I lean a little bit Jeffersonian. Not only that, I do the math on it. I think, you know what? Traditional marriage, man and a woman, still represents the lion's share, overwhelming share, and it's in trouble. So I didn't want to waste my energy arguing over the 1.5% of the 3% that identified themselves as a gay or lesbian that actually want to get married. I thought that was, I just don't care one way or another. When we've got so many children right now living in single parent homes, and we've had guys like George Moss on here before talking about the negative impact that has on society, crime rates, all kinds of numbers that trickle away from single-parent families. So my focus has been that, but the idea that they tried to shut Dave Agema down, I was aghast that his own party, my party, by the way, couldn't stand with the idea of a differing, not even a differing opinion. The opinion that's been the opinion forever.
Yeah, and that's it. Again, it's an issue that you can disagree on. Matter of fact, I think it's the perfect issue to disagree on because the country is, I think, almost 50-50 split in this. The point is, issues of this sort are worthy of discussion, and certain people, we know this, the politically correct, their method of winning arguments, and it's been a pretty good political tool, is to not just shout you down, not just try to keep you off the air, but to get you fired, to get you penalized, to make you a pariah for even having a belief that they may disagree with. And I'll give you a classic one, which we're going through right now, and this is the situation with these two NFL football players who are in trouble. The one for beating his wife, very clearly beating his wife, and the other for, it turns out, maybe beating one of his children.
He took a switch to the child's behind.
Well, and apparently pretty significantly, and not only are the powers that have really risen up, and apparently we saw that a whole group of women United States senators got together and are condemning the NFL and this. They want to get the NFL commissioner fined, fired, who knows. This is an enormous, big issue, and one of the points that, of course, is being made by the victim in the first case, the woman who was beaten, it's made by her. It's been totally censored off of the conversation, and that is, she said, "Hey, I've been beaten. I've recovered. My husband and I have made ourselves together. We've done whatever's necessary to repair the marriage. Now you're going to take away our income? Now you're going to maybe make us go bankrupt?" And whether that's a good argument or not, it's the argument she's making, and it's the argument that any woman who is being abused, or any man who's being abused by his spouse, is at least going to put in the back of their mind that if I bring this up, my spouse or my partner may be fired, may be a pariah. And, of course, that's where some part, if not all, of the income that supports my family comes from. I suspect, and I'm not saying there's a right or wrong here, but if you can't even argue, if you can't bring up, this is an unintended consequence of being real tough on spousal abuse, then it's going to be hidden. But it isn't going to be hidden from the mind.
I got to tell you, Jim, on the point,
and it won't be hidden from the cameras.
No, thank goodness. Listen, on the point of the NFL issue, first off, I agree with everything you said, but I would add to it that the battle really, in this instance, it isn't about spousal abuse, and it isn't about child abuse. There's been a campaign against the NFL by the uber left.
Yes.
And
yes,
listen,
yes.
they're using these the same way they did the what was the shooting down south in Florida where the
Trayvon Martin?
That they kept forgetting that the shooter was Hispanic. He was always white. He wasn't
Yes,
never
he was
Hispanic.
a white. Finally, they came up with a new term that we've never heard of, a white Hispanic. Yeah,
right. And listen, so when you sit and look at it, you go, this has nothing to do with Trayvon. It has nothing to do with anybody in that circumstance. It was an attack on the Second Amendment. In this issue that you're bringing up, it has nothing to do with spousal abuse or child abuse. It's got everything to do with they hate the NFL. And so they've got a handle that they're going to beat the NFL with, and they're going to get as much possible mileage of it as they can. And it even goes back to soccer. It didn't matter how many people watch soccer. They're going to give America the impression that everyone was watching soccer because it's a battle against football. It just, I mean, it's classic leftism.
Well, it goes back to what you were talking about, which is a censorship. And it isn't, again, the classic censorship because you can get the information. What you and I have found is that the opposite story or the other story, the story that they will not allow in many cases on ABC, NBC, CBS, NPR, PBS, and the rest, you can get an opposing view on Fox News. You can get an opposing view on a lot of the talk radio shows. You can most certainly, if the issue comes up, turn on MSNBC for about an hour and then go over to Fox for about an hour, and you will hear the opposing, very well articulated arguments. You can decide on your own which way to go. The problem is that we've moved to this particular point that if in fact you take a position, and to me the classic one would be the gay marriage, but you could even take the situation of yes, there's a downside to automatically putting spouses in jail or imprisoning them or maybe making them lose their jobs. There is a downside. You're not even allowed to articulate that point. And we just saw, this is amazing, one of the college football announcer, long-term, looked to be about a 50-year-old guy, been there a long time. They were talking about it on the show, and he made mention of the fact. He said, I think one of the tragedies here is that the wife didn't report it. He said, I think this is a big deal. Got put on suspension. I mean, how dare he even make a suggestion that a spouse, who in most cases will be the only witness, has some kind of responsibility to get the word out. And the television world and of course the PC crowd loves this. How dare you give any credence to the fact that the victim is in any way culpable? And certainly no one is culpable for being beaten. But is there not some responsibility, or at least would society be better off if those spouses of either sex at least brought it up to the public? What would have happened here? Would we be having this conversation? The answer, of course, is no. If there was no video in that elevator,
the video was just somebody put those big pins on the end of the mace that they were in the middle of beating the NFL up with by that video. They said, "Oh, look, an extra weapon. We can redo this argument and get more mileage out of it with that." But to me, a lot of the media is an exercise of censorship by omission.
Yes,
it is really what it is. If I can cause you to have a certain image of America, of racism, of all of the things positive and negative, if I control how you're going to view those things by selectively omitting pieces of information to you, I don't think that's any different than Nazism burning books in the parking lot. I see it as the same thing and just as evil, by the way.
It's always been done. It seems to me it's a little more egregious today. What's going on down in Ferguson, you're hearing all sorts of things. Certainly, if you go into the black communication areas, some of the black radio stations, some of the black newspapers, or read some of the black columnists, typically on the lefty sites, the meme that is now being spread among those who may have seen the photograph of the police officer who did shoot the gentle giant. I would call him a thug since he was clearly a thug in the video. But the police officer...
Stop with the facts, Jim.
Yeah, well, here's where you get the question of facts, though. His argument was, to a certain extent, or at least those who defend him, was that he was beaten severely, had orbital eye socket injuries and all that. It's been widely publicized, a photograph of him very, very severely beaten up. The media in the Ferguson area, in the Missouri area, and in much of the black community is a phonied up Photoshop photograph. It's a complete lie that, in fact, this 18-year-old, the 6'3" guy was in fact had his hands up and was just murdered in cold blood. Now, we don't know the full story, and I suppose it's possible that this was a Photoshop deal, but that's what's being pushed as the truth. That's the only information that's going out in these communities. And of course, if that's all you knew, you'd be willing to go out and riot and complain and make some big noise. So when these issues of selective news reportage have very serious and powerful societal effects.
There was a company that did a 30-second commercial, and it was supposed to run on CBS's sports broadcast of the Wrangler Champions Challenge Rodeo. I mean,
that's kind of a right-wing kind of a show.
It sounds a little right-wing to me.
You're not going to be offending a lot of powder puff football gals on this one.
And so a local company to that region decided to do a 30-second commercial. And the 30-second commercial amounted to a 4-year-old, one of the owners of the company's 4-year-old granddaughter.
Cute as can be, by the way.
By the way, you folks, I know Oscar remembers, I had my own granddaughter on this microphone, and she recited the Pledge of Allegiance. And listen, at the time, as a grandfather, I was proud, but how I encapsulated it in my mind was that America does have a future, because there are young people that want to do that still take it as a sense of pride. And I'm guessing that the owner of this company probably felt the same way as I did.
I bet you.
So he's got his 4-year-old granddaughter, and she's just like you said, she's just cute as a button. And the CBS dropped the commercial. And the reason they said that, after the quote, but it had.
Now remember, all she did was this really cute recounting. She did the Pledge of Allegiance. That was it.
Had her hand on her heart.
And then buy your stuff at our store afterwards.
Yep. A little still spot after she recited Pledge of Allegiance. 4-year-old little girl, hand on her heart. Just like you say, it's cute as a button. CBS said it had a political nature to it. And so I'm pondering it. I'm watching this thing. I watched it several times, trying to find out, other than the fact that she's stating an allegiance to the United States of America, what could possibly be political in nature? Have we really gotten to the point where an allegiance to our own country is political in nature? Or was it just the fact that it said under God in the middle of it, and they just can't, the uber left just can't hold themselves? And I think, I hear lots of things I don't agree with. I don't have to plug my ears. I don't have to start screaming at people. I just can't understand the concept of stopping them because I disagree. That is so barbaric to me.
It really is something, because the Pledge of Allegiance doesn't have a variety of choices in it. It has very specific words. I pledge allegiance, blah, 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 and then under God has been part of the Pledge of Allegiance for decades, if not longer than that. The left, for whatever reason, I guess because they are atheist left, they don't like the term under God, and they've kind of made up their own Pledge of Allegiance, just taking out that phrase. Fair enough. Go ahead, say what you like. But the fact that you can have a 4-year-old say the exact words of what is in fact the Pledge of Allegiance on television in an ad, and that is offensive enough to be taken off the air is really kind of stunning.
Frightening. It is. It's really frightening. It reminds me of Renegade River, my gun shop, when I wanted to do a radio flight at a different station, and they rejected it because I mentioned, obviously it's a gun shop, I mentioned firearms, and they said, we can't do that. You have to change the script. I said, what do you mean change the script? You'll take my money if I pay for it with the sale of firearms, but I can't say the word firearms
in the ad.
In the ad, I was not allowed to be an ad about what my store actually does. I thought, what an insane upside down world we live in. Folks, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back on that note. Welcome back to the Mike Hewitt Show with Jim Riley and myself.
You can't say that.
I can.
Oh, all right.
I can. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, Oscar could shut us both off.
Yeah, that's true. But you can say that, I guess.
One of the things I think that's changed our society, of course, censorship has always been around, and people have always had big arguments, which is really oftentimes a mechanism. When people start screaming at each other, it's a way to shut the other person's view down. And I often, whenever I get into the debate over censorship or heated debates or differences where one ideal is trying to win over another, I always reflect back to our Constitutional Convention with Ben Franklin. The convention had reached a point where it had stalemated. It wasn't going any further. There were some disagreements on the table. None of the sides were going to. They weren't going to move. And finally, Ben Franklin addressed the convention president, who was George Washington, and not the president of the United States at the time, just the chair or president of the convention, the Constitutional Convention. And he asked that we take a recess. He said, we need to take a 3-day recess. And what we need to do, he says, please don't go back with the people you already agree with and look for new ways of enforcing what your beliefs are. Don't go back to look for, essentially what he was talking about is an echo chamber. Please don't go back to your own echo chamber where everyone agrees with you. Go sit with the opposing opposing side. Go have lunch, go have a cocktail, go do whatever you want to do. Talk to the other side in an informal fashion, listen to their ideas, and see if we can't move forward. Now, at the time, Franklin went on to call for a chaplain. And that part didn't come to pass, not because they were opposed to having a chaplain, but because they didn't have enough money to hire a chaplain, literally. But the overall writing thought was to get out of your echo chamber and listen in an informal setting to people that are right now your opposition. Let's see if we could move forward. And when they came back 3 days later, of course, we know history. That's why we get to have this debate right now. When they came back 3 days later, the people actually did do that. And and the reason I'm bringing that up in our final segment is that I think what we get out of the internet and the endless blogosphere, the chat rooms, the Facebook pages, and indeed the political parties. And you mentioned listening to or reading leftist blogs, and of course I'm entrenched in my issue, and I'm even seeing it within the political party. Differences between and I hate labels, but the difference between the Tea Party group or constitutional conservatives, Republicans that refer to themselves as plank Republicans, versus the establishment Republicans. And those two sides even really don't spend a lot of time saying, okay, we disagree on these 32 things, whatever the number is. Can we find agreement on these 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 and move the ball forward? It seems like everyone is, what I'm getting at, is seems like everyone has really gotten themselves dug in with just the people, they're surrounding themselves with just the people that agree with them. And I think that's that with each passing period of time, that phenomenon is causing us to be even more divided. And you have a group of people, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show, media especially, who seek division. And so they get to play on that little phenomenon. What do you think, Jim?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly what's happening, although I'm not so sure it's necessarily new. I mean, we grew up with a little phrase, birds of feather flock together, and as opposed to what we have now is, diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength is defined only as diversity among races and, I guess, political, national places of origin and gender and things of that sort. But the left doesn't seem to think that diversity of opinion is anybody's strength. And I do think it's important to understand that, again, this is nothing new, really. It's a very powerful, and frankly, it's a political tool that both sides do use. If you can demonize the person who you disagree with, if you can make them somebody who nobody will listen. And, of course, we've seen this really work very well with the left, where someone like Sarah Palin, who's, of course, a very bright woman, you may disagree with her issues, but she's not a dummy, has been demonized, as was Ronald Reagan and George Bush, as someone who's really the kind of an unserious, almost a stupid person, as opposed to someone like Barack Obama, who, at least up until recently, was viewed as clearly, without any question, one of the brightest human beings ever to become president of the United States. Now that's falling apart in the face of the facts, but demonization works. We just must continue to remind folks is that if someone's best argument is that you shouldn't portray your argument for whatever reason, then that's a good indication that the person who's trying to demonize doesn't really have a cogent response.
Do you remember when Reagan was I can't remember where he was at, but he was at a debate, and there were it was a primary debate. There was a number of candidates there, and they turned his microphone off.
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, he just absolutely stood up and was outraged. He's, I paid for this microphone, okay?
I do recall that particular phrase.
Oh yeah, that's where that came from. But I only bring that up because it goes to your point. This is not a new phenomenon. I agree with you. But listen, when I talk about burning books, that wasn't a new phenomenon either. Throughout written history, there's been people that wanted to burn history in the writing, because how can I control you if you know the truth? It's kind of that mentality.
Well, I just got a text, and I'm not sure of this because, again, I haven't followed this as closely as apparently I should, but it says, the text is, where is Rice, this is the football player's wife, Ray Rice, where is Rice's wife's place when she was hitting him in the elevator? And I guess I had heard this, that in fact, this fight that went on between Ray Rice and his wife she was apparently throwing some fists also. Now,
Right.
he clearly had been in better shape, and he took her out with one. But the facts are that just like we saw with Rodney King, just like we're seeing what we have seen with Trayvon Martin, and just like we're now seeing down in Ferguson, Missouri, the media crafts their message, and in many cases we find far too late that we didn't see the full story. We didn't see the full video that is clearly out there. And if, in fact, his wife was bopping him on the head and who knows what, it certainly doesn't excuse him for what he did afterwards, but it does change the conversation a little bit.
It changes it, but it goes to what we talked about earlier with censorship by omission. And so if they sit down with that video clip and frame it a time until they can get whatever it is that she did out of it. And again, I'm with you. I truly don't know who's at fault, other than obviously he was wrong for punching her.
Well, you pop someone, you're at fault. But censorship by omission, you bet. I love it.
It really is. But if you punch me in the face 3 or 4 times and spit at me, man, I am obviously not a violent person, but I could sit and rationalize how someone could lose their temper. That doesn't in any way condone it, but you can sit and rationalize it with it. But listen, to me, it goes back to the greater topic, and that's that whole incident had nothing to do with spousal abuse, but rather the war against the NFL. And I vehemently believe that. We
would not be hearing this. I mean, my gosh, black children in our nation's cities, certainly in our state's cities, are being murdered every weekend in the hundreds, mostly by their friends or people within their communities. That is far worse than any spousal abuse that we've seen on this Ray Rice video, as awful as that is. Death and murder is significantly worse, and the media is very conveniently ignoring that and focusing on this. And the question is why. The answer you just gave us. There's an overriding big war going on that the rest of us really aren't totally aware of.
But it's worse than ignoring the black on black crime that goes on. It's ignoring the reason for it. It has nothing to do with race per se. It has everything to do with whether there's a traditional family raising young people. These men, I don't care what color they are. You get some 18, 19, or 40-year-old that's bopping some woman in the face. You stand back and say, that person didn't get raised properly to understand that that's not acceptable behavior. Some of these people, you watch their expressions after they've done it. There's no remorse. There's no, holy moly, I lost my temper. They don't think that they've done wrong, which goes to how they're being raised. And in my mind, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier when you brought up gay marriage. To me, gay marriage is there's 3% that identify themselves as gay or lesbian, and of that, about half of them have an interest in getting married. The numbers are extremely small, while mainstream, the larger traditional numbers are 50+% divorce, and in the black community, the single parent that never got married in the first place, the proportion is much larger. To me, there's a war against all things that are traditional that offer, frankly, a steady social network. I mean, it's just like George Most was describing when he was raised up, how inner city was very, very different then. And it goes down to what's our understanding of traditional marriage. And even that term has gotten to be, demonized when it isn't a demonizing term. It's what we should be trying to find.
If you are for traditional marriage, which clearly makes the most sense. I mean, maybe two gay men or two lesbian women may be fine parents. They may or may not. And a male and female husband and wife may or may not be good parents. But it does take a male and a female zygotes to make a child, and there are things that are brought to the table in a family that are different from the man, from the father and the mother. They do bring different traits, different talents, different genetic makeup. The men and women are not the same, and you can argue that if you have a chance to make a point. But if you're shouted down because you're a bigot, because if you think that, if you have a store that sells chicken sandwiches and you have some executives who think that a man and a woman are the best to be in a marriage, and you're going to get shut down, that's a dangerous political tool, and it's being used more and more and more.
It really is. But to me, there's a outright war on our culture.
Yes.
And so when I say traditional marriage, we get stuck in an argument. But what the greater umbrella here is that the culture itself is under attack. Has nothing to do with whether Christianity is better or worse than Islam. It has nothing to do with gay marriage versus it has nothing to do with any of those things. To me, it's an absolute war on the American culture. And I don't know what they want to replace it with, but clearly they're trying to tear it down to replace it with something.
Well, look at how the media really steps away from, and the president of the United States, for that matter, steps away from the fact that Islam is one of the words in ISIS and ISIL. The facts are that certain forms of Islam are absolutely, totally, 100% contrary to what we live here in the United States.
See, now you're making me reflect back that the term political correctness was founded in the Communist Party as a way to identify what is acceptable to the party. It's how they kept their own membership in line. I say that because, frankly, I believe the president is a Marxist. And I don't think that's incendiary. It's just when I look at his policy and I look at the Communist Manifesto, it's Marxist. So
I'm not sure he's even that smart.
But he identifies with all the planks that are in make up the Communist Manifesto. And again, I'm not trying to be incendiary. It's just an observation. But when I hear him skip words or try to redefine words to carve our thought process in a certain direction, given the fact that I believe he's a Marxist, I think there is a political correctness right out of the 1920s Communist Party.
Well, you're not allowed to say that. I'm
not real
certainly,
good at...
Certainly, if you owned an NFL team and said that, they would be all over you.
Oh, no question about it. But I'm not real good at keeping my mouth shut when I see something, nor am I real good at having someone silence me.
Well, unless he's sitting across from you with the button on the power there.
He does have the big power, the Oscar.
Well, just be aware. Glenn Beck used to say this, and he still says it, always check the alternative.
Folks, we will see you next week. Jim Riley, thanks for sitting in with me.
Great to be here.
Folks, see you in a week.